Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Grandstand Gurus, the number one sports podcast on the Explosion Network. I am one of your hosts. My name is Jack Kruse. I'm joined this week by Kieran Marchant.
Hey, what's up?
And Alex Titan. No, it's not Alex Titan. It's Ashley Hobley. Ashley Hobley, how are you going?
I'm doing very well.
Sorry,
I'm not Alex Titan.
You're so much better looking.
We had to pull an audible tonight, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Our scheduled guest, Alex Titan, unfortunately, was felled by a brutal steel chair shot to the face, completely disfiguring him.
Ambushed in backstage.
He may not ever be able to wrestle again. Our thoughts are with his family and friends, but
Moment
not really. Anyway, welcome. The number one sports podcast on the Explosion Network. You know the rigmarole. We won't go into all of that. So we're just going to get right into it tonight. This is a on the fly episode. We adapt. We are like a chameleon at the Explosion Network. We just adapt to our surroundings, and so we change colors and things so that if a bigger animal tries to kill us, we can avoid it at all costs. So
you just got to be faster than the slowest guy. So you two have got to be faster than me.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how the food chain works, isn't it? Anyway,
yeah, I think so.
Getting right into it. Kieran, what was your highlight from the weekend?
The youth of Hawthorn coming through. The young upstarts coming in. We had Connor Glass do his debut.
The young Irishman.
Yeah, and he was
ginger
fantastic. He's like a spitting image of an Irish bloke, but he came on for a replacement for Hodgie for his first point of the game. He instantly came on the field and started. Yeah, he was instantly in the middle of the ground, yelling, almost like telling orders, giving communication with the team. It was really good to see, and he played really well. So awesome. Him and my boy Jack Gunston doing his thing was fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, it was a good win over in Perth, so any win away from Melbourne is always a good win for a Melbourne team, absolutely. Ashley, what about yourself?
Me was the Lions winning another game.
Hey.
Yeah, it was a great contest against Carlton. I mean, the Lions played an awesome first half and then dropped the ball in the third
quarter. Quick question, Ash. Why the hell didn't they tag Dane Zorko at all?
I don't know.
Zorko, do what you want, man. Just you do you.
I don't know, yeah.
Zorko is one of the most underrated players in the competition.
Yes,
no one tags him because no one talks about him because he's up in Brisbane.
Well, he was tagged against Richmond and GWS, and he was minimal impact in those two games. So.
He had like 5 possessions against Richmond, didn't he?
Yeah.
But then they played against Geelong the other week, and he wasn't tagged, and he had a huge game, but it didn't make didn't change the result at all. So,
excellent.
But, yeah,
very good. My highlight was the Open Champion, the final round of the Open Championship. So as I said last week, it is my tradition every year to stay up on the Sunday of the last round of the British Open Golf Championship and watch the last round, and I did just that. And leading into the last round, Jordan Spieth had I think he had a 5-shot lead over Matt Kuchar. No, it wasn't that. Sorry, it was 3 shots over Matt Kuchar. Sorry, my mistake. It looked as though Spieth had been unflappable. Is that the word? Inflappable?
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that'll do.
Just insert word that works here.
Yeah, insert word. He'd been really good for the first 3 rounds. Hardly put a foot wrong. He was 11 under par, and it was pretty much sort of thought, universally that he would probably win the tournament. And he did win it, but not in the way that we all thought he would. So it was just one of those. And the British Open, that's why I love the British Open, because it just produces, at any point in time, it can produce the most amazing golf that you've ever seen. He started the round with a bogey, and he had par, and then he had 2 bogeys, and then he had birdie, and he finished the front 9 3 over. So he'd come back to the pack, and he had 3 pars in a row. And he got to the 13th hole and he made bogey, but he put his first drive basically way right into like a hill, and he couldn't, there was no way he could play his shot from where his ball was. There was absolutely no way in hell. So he had to take a drop. But because the hill was so steep, he had to go back like 50 meters, and so he took his drop, and right behind so in golf you can take it's called an unplayable basically. So if your ball is in a spot where you don't think that you're able to play it from that spot, you can take a drop with and it's a 1-stroke penalty. What that means is that you can pick up, and in line with where your ball was and the hole, you can go directly back, so you can go back as far as you want, but it has to be in line with where your ball landed in the hole. So if you think like AFL, when the umpire lines you up for goal, that line that they set you up on for like the middle of the goals, that's like, you think of it like that, you can go back as far as you want and have your shot. Right behind the hill where he hit his ball was like all of the was like a heap of like trucks and like camera like things. It was just like a car park basically of trucks. So he had to go back even further past the trucks, and basically had his second shot, which was his third shot because of the 1-shot penalty, from the practice range. So he had his second shot, and everyone, like, it took 29 minutes for him to play that hole, and it looked like he'd come back to, he was equal at that point with Kuchar. I think it was either he was equal with Kuchar, or he was 1 shot in front of him. But basically, everyone thought, oh, he's gone now. He's had a couple of he's come back to the pack. He's going to make double bogey, triple bogey at best. And the shot he pulled off to get for his next shot was just amazing. Hit over the hill, long to the green, chipped on, and made a big long putt for bogey, and somehow made bogey on a hole where you'd think he would make, any other golfer in the world would probably make double, triple bogey. And after that hole, he was one behind Kuchar. So Kuchar, I believe, either parred or birdied that hole, and so he was one shot in front of Spieth. From that point on was some of the most amazing golf I've ever seen. So he nearly holed in one the next hole. So he went birdie, eagle, birdie, birdie, par, and finished the card 1 under for the day and 12 under for the tournament, and won. Just like heart of a champion. And to come back from where he was at that point in time, where he looked gone and just played some amazing golf, was really something to watch. So that was a little bit of a long-winded story, but that was my highlight from the weekend. It was a great performance by Jordan Spieth, and one for the ages. And I think he's the youngest player ever to win the Open, so it was really cool. Really cool moment. So that sort of leads us into your topic, Ash.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about great comebacks in sport. We almost saw another one if Carlton had have got across the line against the Lions the other night. So, what are you guys' favourite comebacks? Because clearly mine is, I've mentioned on the podcast before, the Brisbane Lions back in 2013 against Geelong. I think they were about 57 points down. Miracle on grass. Ash McGrath, 200th game, gets to kick outside 50 after the siren. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think I've rewinded and watched that last quarter 2 or 3 times that night.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
And I don't think I mentioned this before, but my brother was working for the Lions that day. Mm-hmm. So he was at the Gabba, and he went home at halftime.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's why I've never left a game early. And that's one of the reasons. One, because I never will, but that's one reason you leave early and something like that will happen.
Yeah.
I remember I was at the MCG one day with my dad and my pop. And my pop was always like, it was hard enough to get him to the footy, let alone get him to stay for the whole game. I think we were playing Melbourne, and we were playing St Kilda, and we were like 5 goals down. And he got up and left at 3/4 time, and we ended up coming back and winning, and he'd missed it, and which was quite funny. That's why you never leave early. I think like earlier in the year, the Sydney and Essendon game, like all the Sydney fans were piling out of the stadium. They come back and win with the last kick. Like, imagine leaving that game and not having seen that moment. Like, it's just bizarre to me. Kieran, what about you? What are some of your favourite?
I think one of my favourite comebacks was Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen 1. That fight was an amazing fight. That looked like that was the first time anybody'd really seen in the UFC Anderson Silva in a compromised position. Like, he was almost out of that fight completely.
For 4.5 rounds, he's on his back, basically.
Yeah, 4.5 rounds, he's on his back. Chael Sonnen grinded him out. It was a ward that Chael Sonnen was on top of, and then in that last round, it was just out of nowhere, Silva managed to sink in the guillotine and tap him out.
It was a triangle, wasn't it?
Was it a triangle? No, sorry, it was a triangle. I apologise. Managed to sink in that triangle out of nowhere and just win the fight and continue his amazing championship run. But just that, I think, come back in a sport like football where it's a team effort. I could never imagine coming back in a fight like that when it's literally all on you. Like it's up to you, and what you do from now on is what changes it's changing the fight. So that's one of my favorites. It's one of the things you never hear anybody talk about. You never hear anybody talk about how it feels on the other side of a comeback, like the team, because everybody is making a big thing. I was on that other side this year in the Hawthorn-Collingwood game at the MCG earlier this year, where Hawthorn slotted 6 goals to nothing in the first quarter. And then Collingwood just fought back and fought back and fought back. And to be a fan, to be a fan sitting in that stadium of Hawthorn, it was gut wrenching, because it was like a whole range of emotions, just because of how Hawthorn has played this season. And then to see the boys come out and in that first quarter absolutely dominate, and then bit by bit they just lost control over the next 3 quarters. They just lost a little bit, and then it was the end, and it was just it was a very weird almost experience and atmosphere to be a part of, because unlike watching it at home where you get that that it's just you and your family or whoever's watching it with you, to have that in a stadium environment where I was sat amongst a buttload of Collingwood fans at the time.
Oh no.
And like to sit there, like the guys in front of me were like punching the chair next to them when they were losing that badly in that first quarter.
God.
And I was ecstatic, and then that flip in emotions that just like audibly happened around me was just a crazy experience to be a part of. So
I watched that game. That would have been painful to see. There's been some great comebacks, specifically this year. There's been some really good games. Obviously the Fremantle Richmond game springs to mind, where Richmond were in front with 20 seconds to go, not even, and David Mundy gets the kick after the siren for the goal. Was amazing. And then the GWS Richmond game, Richmond again, in front with less than a minute to go, and goes down the other end, and Jeremy Cameron kicks that goal. The Doggies were never really involved with in any big great comebacks that I can really remember. Like, we've been in a lot of close games, but I can think of so many times where we nearly came back. There was a game in 2010, I think it was, against 2011 it would have been, against Collingwood, and we were down like pretty badly. I think we didn't kick a goal for the first 2.5 quarters, and we were down by 40 points at the start of the last quarter, and we just came and just couldn't get there, and lost by 10 points. And there was another game against Melbourne at the MCG would have been 2014 or 15. No, sorry, 2013 or 14. And we were down by 10 goals going into the last quarter. And we kicked 10 goals in the last quarter, and we lost by 4 points. We just could not get there. So I can think of so many times, so many nearly comebacks that
I went through that like 2 weeks ago. I went through that to the Geelong game 2 weeks ago that I went to, where it was that last kick that it happened again. And that feeling of almost like so close it's incredible.
There's been, when you sort of brought up what's his name, Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen fight, sort of brought up a couple of comebacks in the UFC that come to mind. Obviously, the most recent one, Robert Whittaker, two rounds to none down, and fights through a medial tear to come back and win the interim middleweight title was pretty special just a couple of weeks ago. Couple of great ones from history in the UFC that I always sort of think of, the Czech Congo Pat Berry fight.
Yes, that fight's crazy.
Where
I remember the finish of that. That's so crazy. Yep.
Like he is out. Like Chet Congo is out on his feet, and the ref's about to stop it, and Pat Berry's just hammering him, and somehow Chet Congo manages to get uppercut in and just knocks him out, knocks Pat Berry out, and like falls on top of him, and the fight gets stopped. That one's probably the other than the Anderson Silva one, probably the greatest comeback in UFC history. That one, just probably the most famous one because of how it sort of happened. The other one that I always remember it's one of my favorite fights of all time as well, is the Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard at UFC 125. It was their second fight, and Frankie just got pummeled in the first round and was out on his feet and just managed to stay in the fight, and he took a huge amount of punishment, and I think he took like 3 right hands in a row and was almost done, but he came back in the second and ended up winning the fight. So sorry, no, it was a draw.
Yeah, no, it was a draw.
Sorry, the second one was a draw. Yeah, so the first one he won. The second one was a draw, but just sort of coming back from where he was to not lose that fight was pretty incredible. But yeah, Chet Congo, Pat Berry is probably the big one. Matt Hughes, Frank Trigg from back in the day when Frank Trigg was on his back with was carrying him with the Matt Hughes was carrying Frank Trigg. He was trying to put the choke on him, and ended up winning that. So there's been some great UFC comebacks over the journey, but yeah, it's probably hard to top the Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen.
There was just so much on for that fight. That was just the build-up for that fight. The master of, at the time, the master of trash talk that was Chael Sonnen was... there was a lot riding on that fight. Yeah,
no, most definitely. And then on the weekend, obviously the Open, we were just speaking about Jordan Spieth looking gone for all money, ends up coming back and winning when he looked like he had it, and then he looked like he'd lost it, and he just came back and won it from nowhere. So when you talk about, speaking of golf, you talk about being on the other end of that, Kieran. Before you sort of said, being on the other end of a comeback. Greg Norman. I just think about Greg Norman. He was in the news last week because someone took a interesting photo of him down the creek. But he's the amount of times he's lost. He's snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, and he's had that snatched from him. People just it's one of those things. One of the most unlucky golfers in history, because there's been so many times where players have just played. The shots of their lives, like 1 in a million shots, and just happens to be against him to win major tournaments. The amount of times it's happened is unreal. Ash, have you got any other comebacks you can think of?
The other major one that comes to mind is the Brisbane Roar in 2011, where they came back to force penalties with like 5 minutes left in the grand final, and went on to win. But then again, being on the flip side, about 2 years ago in the semi-finals against the Wanderers, the Brisbane Roar were 3-0 up in like the first 20 minutes, and ended up losing 5-4 in extra time. So
goodness,
yeah, it's pretty rough. Even in State of Origin the other month, game 2, Queensland were 16-6 down at half time, and New South Wales were like all on top of them. Like Thurston's out there with a bung shoulder and everything, and they come back to win 18-6 in the 18-16. So that's another pretty good one.
Speaking of soccer, the Australian soccer team's been on the end of some pretty demoralising comebacks over the years, haven't they? In World Cups specifically.
It's always the World Cup, man. It's always the World Cup.
Get the other goal, and then they come good in the second half, unfortunately. Oh, Italy against Australia. Oh,
I'll never forget that night. I'll never forget mine. I'll allow that swear once.
Oh, God.
I'll have to bleep it out, but
what a dive! What a dive!
Oh, mate, I'll never forget that night as long as I live. I'll never forget it. What a tragedy! What an absolute tragedy!
That was Lucas Neal never recovered.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But we've had some good. I mean, we were down in the Asian Cup final, weren't we? And we came back and won that.
No, we were ahead both
in
the final. Yeah.
Because it went to overtime, didn't it?
Yeah, they scored. South Korea scored towards
That's right.
almost before the end.
That's right. No,
Yeah.
still, we came back from a draw.
Yeah, came back from a draw.
Not that you can have a draw in a final, but you know what I mean.
No, you can't. But
But
anyway.
I think comebacks are I think
I will mention two more.
Yeah,
Nicholas Pryor would kill me if I didn't say the New England Patriots this last Super Bowl.
Of course.
What was that? Who was that? Who are they?
New England Patriots.
Tom Brady?
Tom Brady and
Brady?
some other people.
Deflategate?
Yeah,
Wait,
Deflate.
what?
Yeah. And then Stephen Bradbury.
Oh, God.
What a story.
That is probably the best. That is probably the
God, here we
best
go.
of all time. If you don't know, and you know, I'm not even going to explain. If you're listening to this podcast and you don't know what Stephen Bradbury is, just Google Stephen Bradbury.
YouTube it.
Yeah, YouTube it. It is one of the great sporting moments of all time. One of the great moments. But I think the comeback is probably one of the best things in sport. You know, whether it's comeback in a game, you know, a team's down, backs against the wall against the odds, and they just fight out a comeback to win. You know, they're the most exhilarating sort of, because if you think about sport, and when you turn on like a sport and you're watching a game where you're impartial to who's playing, you always go for the underdog, right?
Yeah.
The underdog is always the favorite. People want the underdog to win, and I think that's like one of the special things about sport is the comeback, and even like individual comebacks, like, you know, players coming back from, you know, significant injuries and hardship, and, you know, becoming champions. You know, if you think of like Clay Smith for the Bulldogs, 3 knee reconstructions, comes back and plays in a grand final last year. You know, Jason McCartney, who was, you know, severely, you know, burnt in the Bali bombings, coming back, you know, having his comeback game and playing that last game for North Melbourne, you know, with the long sleeve jumper. You know, there's some fantastic stories like that. You know, Daniel Menzel coming back from so many knee reconstructions. Alex Johnson. Probably my favourite moment of footy this entire year is when Alex Johnson, who hasn't played, his last game was a 2012 grand final for the Swans. Yeah. And he's had 5 knee recos since, and infections, and just, you know, the amount of hardship that kid's gone through. Has not played a game in over 5 years, nearly 5 years. And he's just making his comeback now through the knee fall, and he had his comeback game a couple of weeks back, and I tweeted out that, you know, footy can offer up some garbage at times, but sometimes it gives you moments like that, and that's probably my favourite moment of footy from the year, was just seeing him in his first game back kicking a goal, and, you know, even if it was just in the knee fall, but the raw emotion and the crowd, you know, it wasn't a massive crowd there, but it was just, you could feel it. I think those are some of the best things in sport, is the comeback. Yeah. It's one of the great things. You know, everyone wants the underdog to win, so it's we can all it's hard to not enjoy a good comeback. You know what I mean? Unless you're on the receiving.
Unless you're on the other side. Unless your team's choking.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, spot on. Yeah, but one of the many joys of sport, no doubt. Kieran, good friend, dear sir, what have you got for us this week?
So in AFL today, Adelaide Crows legend Scott Thompson announced his retirement at the end of the season. He's only played a couple of games for him even this
like
season.
308 or something.
Yeah, he's on
you're talking
308
just this
games.
season.
This season, 308 games this season. Wow.
Yeah.
He's played 308 games total. But
a couple of games this season.
He's only played a couple this season so far. He's not been able to get into that favoured team. I want to talk about retiring. Hawthorn's just gone through the fantastic, and I'm going to be biased here and say it was a fantastic send-off for Luke Hodge, who announced his retirement on his week of his 300th game. And then that week was really a celebration of Luke Hodge and the thug he is.
At least you admit it.
And he continued to be that thug in the Geelong game in his 300th game. So, you know, a leopard never changes its spots. So
that's true.
What do you think about... There's been a few different situations in history where I've seen many people either retire too late, and they don't pick that perfect moment. You know, they don't pick the... What do you guys think is the best... When do you think it's appropriate for the retirement? What I've been thinking about the last week, and I've been reading articles about it, is currently Nick Revolt and Lee Montagna for St Kilda are in a really weird spot. because they're both past their prime almost.
Yeah.
A little
they
bit.
most definitely are. They most definitely are. They're on the tail end. Like they're not.
Yeah,
they're definitely not playing their
towards
best
the end
footy.
of their career.
They're still playing good footy though.
They're still playing good footy, and that's why I have a close friend that's secured a diehard, and I asked him yesterday. I was like, "Hey, do you think Revolt's going to play next year?" He went, "Yep, definitely." And I went, "You sure? You think that's the best idea?" Even stuff like moving away from AFL, looking at some of the UFC's greats. Some of the UFC's greats have carried on so long. The biggest one that always sticks in my mind is Chuck Liddell.
Yeah.
He stuck around that too long, and then he had those terrible fights where you could tell his chin was no longer in it, and he just went down every time.
Yeah.
There's just those people that they just don't know when to call it quits, and it almost sours the good memory.
Yeah, you sort of
that
forget. You forget, like, you know. Yeah, that's it as well. I think as far as when is the right time is all dependent on circumstance. So it depends on the team that you're in, where your team's at. So like you could be in a position, let's say St Kilda are down the bottom of the ladder. Nick Riewold's still playing good footy. They're not challenging for finals anytime soon. He probably plays on because they need that leadership there, young team. You know, they want to help them develop. But they're in a position now where they're sort of meandering around, you know, the bottom half of the 8 and the 10th, 11th sort of position. And they're in a position where they need to be pushing for finals. Next year is like the year they should be pushing to play finals. This year they're probably not going to make it. So do they then, let Riewoldt go to make room to go in the salary cap to go and chase a gun, to develop a player? You've got to look at it, especially with AFL, you've got to look at it, are these players going to be there next time they play their grand final? You've also got to think about the player's legacy as well, is really important. And you guys know, I'm a romantic when it comes to the AFL. Yeah. And I was really disappointed with the way that North Melbourne handled the exit of those four players last year. Just from they probably did the right thing as far as getting rid of them all, but I thought it was handled terribly. You've got to treat your champions with a bit more respect than that. And the Doggies have been guilty of it before. We've had terrible exits from some, great players of these. One that springs to mind is Scotty West. One of the all-time great Bulldogs, 7 best and fairest, top 3. He had like 4 top 5 Brownlows. An absolute champion, 300 game player. And they just handled his exit really poorly. He was injured and he was in and he was out, and they just didn't give him a proper send off. And all of a sudden, he was just done. I think it's got to be done properly. And I think things like Brett Kirk for the Swans had a great send off. He had a great retirement. He was allowed. He went out on his terms. You've also got to know when to go, right? This is the thing that annoyed me about the Kangaroos thing, is the ability was still there. Like, most of those players were still playing good footy. And you could argue that Ferrito and Del Santo and Petrie could have gone. But Boomer Harvey was probably their best and fairest about last year.
He was still
He was in their top 5, yeah.
So.
Yeah, and, so that to me plays a big part in it as well. Like, if you're still playing good footy or good cricket, or you're fighting well still, you should go out. I think it's better to go out while you're still doing well, but you don't want to go out when you're... So the other one I think of is Ricky Ponting. Like, his exit from the game of cricket was one that is terrible. Like, made no runs, in all the series leading up. They were even talking about dropping him. This is one of the all-time great cricketers of ever, like any country. And they were thinking, we're going to drop this guy because he's not making runs. And his last test, I think it was at the Wacker against South Africa. He made, I think, 10 in his last innings, and it was just like he was just past it. And sometimes players go on too long, and it's sad. Like you spoke about Chuck Liddell. It's sad to watch.
Yeah, it was sad. It was painful to watch those fights.
Yeah, you want to go out if you're like a cricketer. You want to go out on top. You want to go out making 100 or walking out raising your bat. You don't want to walk out having made 10 and having not made a score in months. you want to go out like Dan Henderson did, and retiring from the UFC, fighting for a title, swinging to the fences to the end, almost winning a championship in his last fight. Like, that's how you want to go out. But I think it's a hard one. It all depends on circumstances. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. I guess it's just a matter of how your body's feeling and personal passion. I don't know whether it's a good idea anymore to wait till the end of the season or to make a decision on whether you're going to play, because you just sort of leave it in the club's hands when you leave it to the end of the year.
It's also not fair on the fans that either. Like, you want to give the fans an opportunity to say goodbye to their champions, and not with a crappy, lap of honor like the first home game of the next season. You want to give them, an opportunity to give them a send off where they, they're on the ground and they take a great mark, or they lay a big tackle, or they kick a goal, and that like charge of emotion when that player that you've loved for a decade is leaving, and you have that opportunity to say goodbye to them. That's how a player should go out.
And it normally adds something to the final series as well, when you've got some players who are retiring during once the season's over. Like I remember Shane Webke back in 2006. He was playing in the Broncos, called his retirement, and he went out a champion. So one of the last ones to do it. Yeah,
another Shane Crawford in 2008 went out on top. He won that flag, and he was going to play on. Like he had made the decision to play on, and after they won that flag in 2008, he thought, I don't need to keep playing. I've done everything that I need to do. I've won a premiership now. I've won a Brownlow. What's the point of going on another year? And he walked away. That's how you want to go out. You want to go out on top. You don't want to go out and it's such a hard one. And things like just break your heart. Like if I think I've spoken about it before, but Chris Judd's the greatest player I've ever seen in my lifetime, and the way he went out, being carted off on a stretcher, is just absolutely heartbreaking. To see an absolute champion of the game, like not even just Carlton champion of the game, like going out like that. It's not how you want it. It's not how you want it to happen.
Same thing with Brownie, Jonathan Brown. When he got knocked out,
that one as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was fitting, kind of, but but heartbreaking.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just it's just. You want to go out like Shane Crawford went out. You want to go out on top. You don't want to go out with injury or anything like that, or being pushed out the door. You want to be able to go out on your own terms, I think, is the big thing with the comeback.
A quick question to wrap this topic up a bit, and to see where both of your minds are at for this season of AFL. It's gonna be a bit of a mind one. Who do you think should bow out at the end of the season? Like, pick one player each. Who do you think it's time to call it quits? And I'll start, because I've been thinking about it a lot, especially with Hawthorn and the period we've been in. And if you listen to earlier editions of our podcast, how I criticised Hawthorn for their late decision makings to go into redevelopment. And I think this year's turned around 180 degrees almost, because we've got young kids coming through and actually playing some really good footy for us. And on that train of thought now, I think it's time for Josh Gibson to call it quits, because from the games he played at the start of the season, he was not the Josh Gibson I remember from last year. And from a point of view of the team and what the team needs, we've got a good solid defence of new kids coming through that is keeping him around for another year. Going to take away a spot from one of them and learning for them. So, sadly, and I was a really big fan of Josh Gibson last year. So I think it's time for him to hang up his boots. What about you, Ash? Let's go with you.
Hard to say. I think maybe Gary Ablett. I mean, he's been injured so much. I think maybe his body just isn't up to the rigors anymore. And maybe just not do that extra year. That maybe just call it a day. I mean, he's a twice Brownlow medal winner, so yeah.
Yeah, Ablett's an interesting one. For me, and I've just been really disappointed with how he has probably handled himself this year. with the way, like, there was talk on the weekend, and he didn't play against the Bulldogs. There was talk on the weekend that he was fit enough to play, and he sort of he decided that he didn't want to, which is really disappointing from a player. You know, you don't dictate to your club when you want to play, no matter who you are. You know what I mean? Chris Judd would have never done that. So, you know, I almost sort of, want him to retire, to be honest, because I don't feel like he's the champion that he deserves to be revered as, just because of the way that he's sort of gone about it in the last few years. Like, he took that contract from the Gold Coast. He went up there and took that money and went up there to play for the Gold Coast. He could have stayed at Geelong and stayed loyal. Now he's had enough of that. He doesn't want to do that anymore. He wants to get out of his contract and come home. Like, you can't have it both ways. So I think he should retire, to be honest. I don't like the way he's sort of gone about it in his last year. Is there any other ones, Ash, that you've got that you think should probably look to go?
No, nothing springs to mind. I mean, I haven't been following all the other teams closely. I mean, Brisbane have sort of culled all the senior players. I don't think they've got any left. So
yeah, that's a good point. I guess for mine, like, we've got three sort of veterans in our team that, Bob Murphy, Dale Morris, and Matthew Boyd. And for those three, I think I'd love to see. I think Dale Morris can play on. It's really unfortunate he just broke his arm on the weekend.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about that one.
You know, I think because he wants to play. He said that he wants to. I think he's still got the ability to. He's still got great leadership. He's still got a lot to offer. We've still got a really young backline, a really inexperienced backline. We've got I don't think we've got a player in our backline that's played over 100 games, to give you a bit of an insight, fit or otherwise. So he's the only, other than him, and I'm not talking like half-back flankers. Even like Murphy and Boyd did count as backmen as well, but like I'm talking like key backmen, like, Zane Cordy, Fletcher Roberts, Marcus Adams. These guys have all played under 100 games. Some of them haven't played 50 yet. So we've got a really young backline. I think he's a really consistent player, and I'd love for him to play on, regardless of the. And it's not like he's breaking down with soft tissue injuries. Like, he's broke his leg this year and he's broken his arm. So, it's not like he's getting hammies and but he's not like he's getting hammies and calves and stuff like that. These are like impact injuries. The other two, Murphy and Boyd, I think Boyd should probably retire. He's been in and out of the team. He's been inconsistent, which is really unfortunate. He's so close to. I think we have to play two. If he has to play he'll probably come in this week for Morris, but he'll have to play every game plus 2 finals, I think, to be able to play his 300th game. So it's not, which is sad, because you'd love to see him get there. But I don't think he's going to be able to make it. They should probably hang him up at the end of the year, because when you're at that age, when you're in your sort of your 30s and you're in and out of the team, that's not how you want to be playing your footy. No. And then Murphy's the other one. And he said, last year that if he had been playing in the grand final, he would have retired. Yeah. So that gives you a bit of an indication of where he's at. In which case, I think that sort of speaks for itself, and that this will be his last year, regardless of what happens. Because if you're ready to hang him up, last year, if you had played in a grand final, you probably haven't got too many left in you. So, which is a shame, because I'd love for him to win a grand final, but it's looking less and less likely as the weeks sort of go on this year. But that's sort of. And then Mark Lacroix is probably the other one. Mark Lacroix should hang it up. Yeah, he's done. He's cooked. And Joe Watson too. Joe Watson.
Yeah, Joe.
Yeah, fair enough. Going all out.
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, there's one person who's been in the news recently who should maybe retire. Bernard Tomic. Have you read about?
Yes,
him?
Please.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. He should retire.
Yeah, it's just. What do you think about that? Someone who wants to keep playing, but not for the passion of sport, but just to make as a job rather than a passion.
Yeah, I mean, he's entitled to do whatever he wants.
I mean, if you're good enough, you can do it.
But like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? Like,
what?
Like, why would you bother if you're doing, especially something like sport where it really takes a lot of commitment and passion? Like, you can't treat professional sport like a regular office job and just rock up and have sick days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to put everything that you've got into it. it's not the kind of thing that you can do half-assedly, I guess.
Even with like looking at it, like tennis is major. Their major income is sponsors.
Yeah.
Who the hell would want to sponsor him?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, he's not exactly the most marketable player, so I think he should definitely retire because I don't want to cheer for him.
No.
In fact, I can't remember. Other than Leighton Hewitt, but he only really sort of became tolerable towards the end of his career. I can't remember us ever having a tennis player that I actually cared about.
Yeah.
They're just terrible.
Not from
aren't
Australia,
they?
anyway.
Not from Australia, you know. God bless Roger Federer, isn't he?
I was going to say everybody's
He's
got to
the
say
same.
God bless Roger Federer.
Very good, very good. Awesome. All right, moving on. So, I've got my topic is a new segment for Grandstand Gurus called Have the Gurus Been Paying Attention?
Panic,
Panicking.
panicking.
Springing this one on the guys.
The podcast is cutting out. Hang up now.
For their listeners' information, the Gurus were not aware of this topic before we came in this evening, so they have no prior knowledge. They weren't able to prepare, so this is going to be a true test on our Gurus' knowledge of the sporting happenings of the week. So I'm going to rattle off some questions real quick, and you'll have 5 seconds to answer. And then we will have a score at the end of it. Actually, I'll give you 10 seconds to answer. Let me just get my stopwatch out.
What a guy.
So, elevator music, please, while I...
I'm glad we both picked the same elevator music.
Yeah, exactly. We got it all in tune. We're in sync.
All right.
We prepared elevator music.
Perfect.
You have 10 seconds to answer. This week, whose jersey was Conor McGregor wearing?
Draymond Green.
No, it's like some old Warriors player, but it was number 23. It had to do with...
Wasn't it? No, it was. But Draymond Green called him out on it, right?
Yeah, he did, yeah. Apparently it was like a mental, psych out.
I'm gonna give Ash half a point
Yeah.
God damn it.
because he
Thank
got
you.
no. You know what? Ash gets 2.5 points.
2.5 points.
No, sorry, point.
How
Sorry,
did that
point
go
point
from half a point to
0.25. He gets 0.25 because he knew the number. It was CJ Watson,
Yes.
and you were half sort of there, Kieran, with the player that called out Conor McGregor. So CJ Watson famously was involved back when Floyd Mayweather was sent to jail for assaulting his wife. CJ Watson was the player who used to play for the Warriors in question, who was sending questionable text messages.
He was the other
to Floyd
guy.
Mayweather's- Yeah, he was the other guy. So 0.5 points to Ashley for that one.
Wait, so is it 0.25?
0.5. I thought it was 2.5.
It's 0.25. It's point. He gets a
0.25,
quarter of a
damn
point.
straight.
Two-
Get back there.
He gets a quarter of a point.
Quarter of a point. Okay.
Okay. In the game on the weekend between the Storm and the Raiders,
Oh, God.
who knocked out Billy Slater?
Canberra player.
Tom Bradbury.
I can't remember his name. I remember the incident. It was terrible. He should have been sent
Seymour
off.
Hoffman.
Well, it was
I would pay money to see Philip
Zero-
Seymour Hoffman knock out anybody.
0 points for either of you. The answer is Sia Soliala.
No, I don't think that's right.
Sia Soliala.
Solialo.
Yeah, that was a dude. I believe that's the right
Yeah.
thing, isn't it? That sounds right. Yeah.
That sounds right. Sorry, buddy.
Very good. Sorry, buddy.
Buddy, I'm going to have you in an earpiece next
In the
time.
game between the Geelong Cats and the Adelaide Crows last Friday night, what was in Harry Taylor's hand when he shook hands with Josh Jenkins at the end of the game?
Mouth guard?
Bam,
Grass?
bam, bam, bam.
I have no idea. I did not know
Jockstrap.
this.
He had ham in his hand.
He had ham on his
He had a
hand?
Did he
slice
have it
of
on him?
ham.
Where
Did
did
he
you
have
get
it
that
on him?
from?
Bonus
He had
points
it-
if you can tell me why he had ham in his hand.
He was
Yeah, no.
hungry?
No,
No idea.
nothing.
No
Okay.
idea.
He had ham in his hand because Josh Jenkins had fallen ill to food poisoning earlier in the week, and he had eaten some bad ham, was the official story. So Harry Taylor thought it would be funny to shake his hand with a bit of ham in it. Apparently, Harry Taylor is not very funny.
I believe that.
That's a bit easy.
During the Open Championship on the weekend of golf, what score did Jordan Spieth make on the 13th hole?
4.
5.
I'm going to give that to Ashley.
Yes!
Technically right. I would have also accepted bogey.
We forgot about golf.
Ash gets
terms.
one. Ash gets 1 point because he did shoot
damn
5.
it.
So
Ash is just
I will
burying me.
I will accept that. I will accept that. In the World Cup of Cricket on the weekend, who did England beat?
Wales.
India.
Ashley, 1 point.
God damn
Yes!
it. This is terrible. God damn it.
1 point to Ashley. Who is taking over from Andrew Ireland as CEO of Sydney Swans in 2018?
Adam Goods.
Nope.
I'm just speechless from that answer.
I don't know.
Bah.
was
The
just
answer
trying
is
to get a
Tom
reaction.
Harley, former Geelong
Oh, Cat
captain.
Tom Harley. Of course.
0
Bloody
points
hell,
for both
Tom.
of you. Who did Kane Corns insult this week?
Everybody. But Patrick Dangerfield. No. Was it Patrick Dangerfield? I'm pretty
5
sure.
seconds. Wasn't Patrick Dangerfield.
Maybe not this week.
Joel Selwood.
Was not Joel Selwood.
God damn it.
Bah. The answer is Alex Rance. He insulted Alex Rance by saying that he is a diver. It's, should not throw stones from your glass house. Alex, referring to the incident with Toby Green.
Where he got smacked in the face.
Yeah. So, I don't agree with
Hard to call him
anything
a
Kane
diver
Corn
for
says.
that, yeah.
No, I agree. Who, speaking of Alex Rance, who lost a shot on goal as a result of Grub Toby Green striking Alex Rance on the weekend? Who lost a shot on goal as a result of Grub Toby Green striking Alex Rance?
I don't know. Jeremy Cameron?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
Basha Hooley. He's still in suspension.
Nope, he plays for the other team. The answer is Steve Johnson. 0 points for either of you.
Oh, poor Steve.
And now, for bonus question, this one's worth 2.5 points.
Oh, God. Here we go. Feel the pressure.
Well, it's worth 1.25 points each. So,
You're about to witness a comeback, audio form.
speaking of comebacks, Kieran, now's your chance.
Let's do it.
In the Grandstand Guru's theme music, in the very last clip, who is commentating?
Bruce McAvaney?
Bruce McAvaney is correct.
Ah!
No!
1.2
The superior
points.
guru.
1.25 points for Ashley. And as for a bonus points, if you can tell me the moment that is being commentated.
No idea.
No idea? Kieran,
No idea.
I'll give you 3.5 points if you can get this right. What moment is Bruce McAvaney commentating in the clip at the end of Grandstand Gurus?
Is it?
Have you listened to that show?
Rioli being Cyril Rioli.
I'll give you a hint. It happened in 1999.
Oh, I've got no chance.
It was...
Adelaide. Is it the Adelaide Crows win?
It
no.
is not. No. Adelaide Crows won in 97 and 98. That was terrible. It was Gary Moorcroft's Mark of the Year taken over Brad Johnson in 1999. So, tallying up our points,
It's going to be a hard one. I've just got to mention 0 is the perfect number.
Kieran scored a very honourable 0 points,
Yes.
and Ash takes the win with 3.5 points. Very good.
Well, yeah.
Congratulations, Ash.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Ashley.
I've redeemed myself on the Explosion Network from our Platinum Explosion E3 predictions.
So loser gets to become the host of the next time we do this, right?
Absolutely. So Kieran,
Yeah,
it is on to
yeah,
you now. Actually, no, that's not how this works. Ashley gets to.
Yeah. No. What?
Yes.
No.
No.
You have to prove
You have
yourself
to
against
earn.
the champ.
You have to earn
You
your
have to
right.
prove yourself against the champ.
No, that's not how it works.
We should discuss this off air.
This episode, we had to improvise very much so for this episode, but
You'll see me
anyway,
as the host, I promise you.
that we will. Ladies and gentlemen, moving into our last segment, what are we looking forward to this weekend? Ashley, hit me with it.
I did not think of anything. I know who are the Lions playing this.
The honesty. The
The honesty.
is correct for this one.
Let's see.
You're just overwhelmed by winning, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just so surprising. But
So surprising. Very good.
Orange.
Kieran, what are you looking
Lions
forward
against
to
West
this
Coast.
week?
That'll be interesting. Well, West Coast, they're at home, but who knows after this week whether they'll be at their best at Subiaco against my Lions.
Nice improvisation. I like it.
Thank you.
Kieran, what are you looking
I'm
forward
looking
to?
forward to this Friday night where I get to have a nice cold beer watching the Hawthorn Sydney Swans game with my good mate, Jack Kruse.
Ah, you
Oh,
should know. Yes,
Who?
I'm looking forward to that also. Never heard of him.
he's like, shit, I forgot.
Never heard of him. Yes, I'm also looking forward to that. That'll be some. That'll be good fun. Get to the footy, watch the Swans and the Hawks. They generally put on a good show, so it'll be.
And it's the Beyond Blue Cup.
Oh, awesome! Cool, great cause.
Multicultural round this week, isn't it?
It is also, yeah, absolutely. It is,
Which is always fun.
absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Where are we sitting, Kieran?
It'll be general admissions to level 4.
Great.
So go find them.
Love it. Looking forward to it. Yeah, we will tweet out where we're sitting. We will do a meet and greet at the MCG on Friday night, so stay tuned for that. I'm looking forward to a couple of things. UFC 214 is this weekend, so the return of Johnny Bones Jones. I'm only because Daniel Cormier bores me to tears. I'm looking forward to seeing John Jones reclaim the light heavyweight title from DC. And I'm also looking forward to the game on Sunday between the Bulldogs and the Bombers. Doggies are back to some semblance of form.
Please, I beg
I hope
you.
so. Yeah, I really
beg
do.
you so much. Please just absolutely destroy them.
I hope so. Yeah, so we've won a couple of games in a row. We were unconvincing against Carlton, and I was really disappointed for 2 quarters against the Gold Coast. And the first and the last quarter we played really well. We ended up winning by 54 points, so our biggest win of the season. But we'll have a real test on our hands this week when we play the Bombers. So they're coming off a really good win. So it'll be This will be basically both teams will. Either one of these teams will be in the 8 at the end of the round. So whether it's us or whether it's them, yet to be determined. But it's basically a game for a spot in the 8. So I'm looking forward to seeing how my boys can back up a couple.
It's like having a preliminary final in July.
It's a big
very
one.
much that
Yeah,
stakes.
it's almost an elimination final. You're right. So I'm excited for that. Definitely.
Let's hope your boy Liam Pickens steps up again.
Oh yeah, did not he play a good game or what? 6
Oh,
goals.
mate. 6 goals.
Here comes Billy. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Grandstand Gurus, the #1 sports podcast on the Explosion Network. As you all know, this is a product of the Explosion Network, as I did just say. You can find all of our content over at www.explosionnetwork.com. We've got the original Pleasure Explosion pod. We've got Platinum Explosion, the #1 PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. We've got the, just on that, we've got the Tiny Tracks review discussion will go live on that episode at 9 p.m. I guess last night went live. 5 minutes from now in our time. This is a look behind the curtain.
Ash, quick, get on Twitter now, quick.
We upload all of our podcasts into video form. We also do Reacts videos over at bit.ly/Explosion Network. We did a heap of Reacts videos over the weekend for all the content out of San Diego Comic-Con. So go check that out if you want to know how we feel about movie trailers and various miscellaneous bits of media.
Lots of TV.
A bit of TV, bit of movies, a little bit of everything for everyone there. You can also find everything over at twitch.tv/Explosion Network. We do a lot of streaming of games. We'll be streaming the Mario Kart 8 Invitational. We'll be back next week. This week we're doing Jackbox Party games, so come over to twitch.tv/Explosion Network tonight, Thursday the 26th of July. If you want to play some video games with us, we'd love to hang out with you, talk some smack, play some games. It'll be a grand old time. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for joining us on a very slapstick episode of Grandstand Gurus. We do all of this for you. It would mean the world to us if you could go over and like, subscribe, share us with your friends and with your mother. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It would mean the world to Ashley and his family.
I don't have much.
It's the best he can do.
Until next time, plat. Keep on grandstanding.
I'll have my revenge.
It's beautifully bowled. Sensational. It's over. He's given it. He's given it. It's a ball. What a ball.
Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's me, Jack Kruse, back here. I just wanted to drop a little message here from the Explosion Network. On Friday, we lost one of the world's great talents in Chester Bennington, the lead singer of Linkin Park. And here at the Explosion Network, we just want to let all of our community, our friends, our family know that it's okay to not be okay. If you ever feel like you need help, if you feel like you're having dark thoughts or anything like that, please reach out. Ask a friend, ask a family member, ask us. We're here for you as well. Reach out to us, send us a tweet, send us a message on Twitter, flick us an email. We are here for you, and there will always be people here for you. We can't keep losing people this way. And there is always a way out. So if you do need help, please do reach out. The number for Lifeline is 131114. You can also go to beyondblue.org.au to find some resources for help. Please just remember that we love you, you are loved, and if you ever need help, do reach out. Plat plat.